Hello everybody. In my last video I was just goofing around, but we've got our parts made, so we are setting up this video basically as a log so I can go through the steps in the right order of the tear down and rebuild of both of these the X-axis rails. We have built both of our carriages, as you can see here. I've got it mocked up a little bit, got a little piece of 2x3 tubing in between. We milled all this out of 1/2" aluminum. It's 6061. Drilled 9 million holes, and I cut a little triangle out to take a little bit of weight off of it. Used 3/4 inch to make my gussets, which are stiff backs for the height. The rails are going to be dropped down a lot lower, so I need a little bit more stiffness between the rail and the gantry. We made a plate, a steel plate, which you can see in here, that bolts to the aluminum carriage as a flange to weld the tube into. So once I get the new rails situated on the table, I can mount these two carriages and get them plumb and square, and get the gantry perfectly plumb or level with the tabletop, and tack it up and then pull it out and weld it up, and then bring it back and weld it in and bolt it in after it's painted and has the rail, the V-groove rail, which is these here. I've already got these guys fabbed up, one for each side. It's 1/2x2 cold roll steel and V-groove tracks attached to them. I welded them instead of tapping them like I did on the gantry. That became such a problem keeping them straight. As you can see, these things are spaced out about 3 inches apart on the holes. It's so, I guess, kinked up, what you want to, I guess what I want to say. I guess they punch the holes in it when you buy it with the holes already in it, so it gives it something goofy at every few holes. Every now and then they get one where they must not set it up good, and it deforms it. So it puts quite a few bends and bows in it, ups and downs. Makes it interesting. So I ran into problems. Go around here and show you the gantry. Now this side had already rebuilt a little while back. Let me move it down here a little bit more out of the way. Get some stuff out of the way here and get a little bit of light on the subject. But there's a 1/2x2 cold roll with the V-groove rails mounted on there. I'll just be replacing that with a piece of 2x3 tubing, and I'll have to change out the screws. The socket head cap screws have to come out of there, and I'll put a regular bolt in there that I can get to and still adjust. If I need to adjust it, I won't be able to get to that cap screw because it'll be behind the tubing. So I got to change that those 2 screws out. It's not a big deal. I thought about just going ahead and drilling the 1/4 inch hole all the way through and putting a nut on the back side, but for now I think just changing out the bolt. Good hex head flare head bolt with a low profile head. I don't think it'll need to be low profile. I'll find out. Do some measurements, compare the height of the cap screw versus the bolt head. I think the bolt head's probably less, so I don't think I'm going to have anything to worry about there. We did go ahead and order 3 more of these 570 ounce NEMA 23 stepper motors. We've got one now up on the gantry running the Y-axis, and it has been performing unbelievably well. The little 400 ounces that are over there now, they get scalding hot, and I've got resistors in them, and they're just not happening. One of them already actually died. That's why I put that one up there. It got to stalling so bad there was no reason for it, unless the documentation that came with it didn't include the correct wiring information. And I should have never purchased the motors, but it was part of a kit that I bought with my Gecko and all, and they're just crappy motors to start out with. They have no name on them, so somebody tells you, well, here's the wiring schematic, you don't know if it's right or not. And I could probably go to somebody and say, hey, can you figure this out for me, or show me how to figure it out, which ones are right. I'm sure there's a way to do it with a tester. Read continuity through the different phases. So, what we've done after we got all that stuff made, and we designed a new duct bank. So that's why these rails have to move down lower. They have to move down below this. It'll probably be about a 1/4 inch below the bottom of this to the top of the new rail location. I'm going to go to 2 by 2 by 1/4 inch tubing on these rails here. This is just 2 by 2 11 gauge, and the new gantry is going to be quite heavy. Fortunately, with my carriage design, I can come in here and put a center support in, which I will do on both sides. So basically, you have to build 3 legs down each side to hold the new rails. But before I even mess with that, I'm going to bend a C-shaped piece of metal that will come out here 6 inches, come straight down about 5.5 inches, and then turn back about 1 inch up from here, and then I'll have another bend turning down 1 inch, and I'll continue that duct all the way to the end of the collector box, and it'll run from there all the way to the other end of the table. It's about 70 inches long, 69 or 70 inches, something like that. So we'll get the sheet metal and cut it with the plasma cutter, and bring it over here to our little homemade brake. It's another one of my little things I made here at the shop. Does a really good job bending 40 inch wide 11 gauge. So that's really good. I'm going to have to get a longer piece of 4-inch stock to use up here to bend longer sections, but that's not a problem. Just about every tool in this shop, you'll find that I either built from scratch, rebuilt, or refurbished. This is my little hydraulic press that I made about 4 or 5 years ago. Has some good sized steel, and Yeah, I like Dr. Pepper. So we built that, and it's pretty good. It's running about 50 tons. Running a 2-stage pump on. Then I got my little Rockwell 20-inch bandsaw. I got it off auction. It had been sitting outside for quite some time. So we totally stripped it and refurbished it. We took out the AC motor and put in this DC speed controller, power converter, and a DC motor and a reduction gearbox down the bottom on the back side. It's really been a nice saw. It's more than I need. I don't use it as much as I thought I would. Doesn't mean I won't in the future, but it's all there. Excuse me. One of the other projects I got up and coming, I just need to, been trying to clean up the shop, get some room. I got to move my whole workbench over. As you can see, there's not a lot of room in between my workbench and the table, and this is fixing to grow 6 inches wider. So I have to accommodate that. So I'm moving this over 8 inches, and I'm going to cut 6 inches off the front edge of my workbench that I built into the wall over there from 30 odd years ago. I don't do any work over there. It just ends up collecting a bunch of stuff that I have to put away later. So not having it there will probably be beneficial. So we had ordered a motor, a 5-horsepower motor, to replace the 3-horse motor that's on the air compressor now. We just figured we'd upgrade it. I'll put new run and start capacitors in that one about 6 months ago. It was having an issue starting sometimes. It would hum a little bit before it would turn over, so that's what I figured it was, and sure enough it was. So since it runs up to 175 psi, that motor has to do a little bit of work, so we're going to throw a couple extra horses to it, and that should take care of that. The drill press I rescued from work. It had been sitting outside for about 7 or 8 years. Literally a rusty bomb packed with mud dauber nests from one end to the other, and so much rust on it that some of the other guys that were looking at were just going to take it to the junkyard and sell it for scrap. So I couldn't stand that. So I brought it home and totally stripped it. It's a Dayton 20-inch. Still needs a little bit of work in the spindle. It's loose, you know. It needs to be sleeved or something. I don't know what you can do to fix that, but for what I'm doing, it's going to be okay. So as the first part of the build for the table, I'm going to be taking one gear rack off at a time. You can see here I got, maybe you can or not, but I've got these 440 screws countersunk on 12-inch centers. Well, this flexes in between these two, and it has sag, and so anyways, I'm gonna go back and drill them out and counterbore 4-inch centers on both of these, and I'm gonna do them one at a time, and I'm gonna label them left and right, so that if I do come up with something else to build that I need to make, I can go ahead and screw this right back to it. But I can do, you know, get both of them drilled and counterbored, and get the 2x2 1/4-inch tubing that's going to replace this rail, and I can lay it out and start drilling and tapping it, which I wish I should sure enough do it with a machine, but It I don't know if I want to try drilling this steel with a rocking horse. That's what we're doing. So we have gone over here to the drill press and put a vise in our vise. Interesting. Set up here so that we can put our, this is a small piece of that gear rack. It's 20-degree pressure angle track. It's much better than the 14. But so we just made this to, or rig this up so we can house this and add the rest of our holes. I've been trying to figure out a way to do them from the other side. As you can see, the sporadic array of holes on the end down here. I was trying with miniature bits on the other side, trying to drill in between the teeth to see if I could, you know, redo those other rails in place, but unfortunately it doesn't work out that way. So what I have to do is drill all the holes from this side, 964 hole, all the way through, and I'll lay out to where it might not be exactly 4 inches. That's why I couldn't drill this on the table, but I'll mark the center of the groove at each location, fortunately, and center mark them, and then come back and drill it, and I'll just be able to slide this piece through here. Of course, it's going to be 5 foot long, so I've got to have a way to hold it. So what I did was I just took a level and came from the end of the gear rack here and just stretched it over there and put a 1/2 inch plate over there and came off the top of this to the top of that and leveled that up. And now I've got to move a few things down here in the corner, a little box of fireplace logs that we burn outside in the fire pit. I'm going to get that out of the way and put a stand up here with something to help hold the end when it's heavy on this side. So I need something 2 or 3 feet away from this end, as well as that's what I did over here, something similar. So I gotta figure that mess out. But there you have it, the new carriage, mocked up. Just waiting to go to work. Have all the rest of the motors are all wired up with the DB9s. I soldered all those in last week. Got those ready, so we're ready to get some sheet metal, get the ductwork pre-bent, pre-drill these gear racks. And by then we should be, once we have the duct bank made, we'll know by then if we need to make any more parts. And we'll cut the rails off, take the gantry off and lay her down and redo it. Also, as far as the rebuild, I don't know if I mentioned, but this 2x2 tube in here, I'm going to replace it with a piece of 2x3 by quarter or 2x3 by 3/8. Give it a little more strength and flexing so it can't twist any if I am going to be doing much piercing or drilling with it in the future. I had planned to mount a vertical drill next to the plasma torch when it's on the table, so that I could pre-drill if I had to, thick of a piece of metal that I couldn't pierce with a plasma. My plasma will pierce 1/2 inch. I'm sorry, it'll pierce 3/8, and thinking about getting a different plasma cutter that's a little more CNC friendly to put on the table. They have them made a little bit different for these applications. So we also have to cut this off of here, the the cold roll with the V-track on it, and this is one of the ones I'd done with the screws. And what I found out was that it was too easy for them to move around in the slots and the holes. So, and it's inconsistent. Even on this, I did like a 5-inch spacing on all the screws. So I might drill a few more holes in it and weld it and get that top perfect. Make sure it's all the way down. That's one thing I couldn't achieve with the screws. So I know there's some little ups and downs in it, and I'll put a straight edge on it and find those, and either take the screws out and weld it, or add a few holes where they need it and pull it down and take care of that. So we've been spending the last 2 weeks cleaning the shop, or the last 2 weekends anyways, trying to make some room, consolidating everything. This thing here has so much stuff in it when I got it. A friend of my dad's had passed away, and boy, it just had a lot of stuff in it. A lot of it was junk. Some people never throw anything away. And I think I might be one of those people, but I managed to throw some stuff away and consolidate all my nails and screws and bolts, and I've been doing all of that. So now I'm ready to make a commitment to this table. So I'm going to pull those rails off one at a time, drill them, counterbore them, made them up to a new piece of tubing, and do the same on the other side. And well, by then I haven't figured out something else I need to make that I have to make on the table. Well, we're gonna dive in and get the plasma cutter over here and cut a few of these welds out and get it back together. That's a basic outline here of the duct bank. You can't really tell on this too good, but anyways, that's it's been a while since I've done a video, so I figured I'd give you guys an update. You can see I've been pretty busy building stuff for the table. I'm trying to work my way up to doing this. Seems like it's getting easier to do this stuff, huh? A little bit easier to figure things out now, but it's my first CNC table. It's been a blast. So when we start the build, we're going to do the duct bank first. We're going to get it working the way we want it. If it doesn't work with my new extensions and add-ons, whatever, then I'm going to stop right there and I'm going to figure out why, figure out how to make it better from that point, and go from there. So the first part is the downdraft, because I can't have the fumes accumulate in there. And that's the name of that too. So thanks y'all for watching. If you enjoyed the video, or if you like CNC period, yeah, give me a thumbs up, like the video. If you want to get updates to the build as I go through it, I'm going to try to be more prominent in making videos while I'm doing stuff, which is basically going to be a lot of drilling on the drill press and tapping. So it's going to be boring, and my fingers will be all blistered up probably about the time I get done. I figure it's probably going to be about 400 of those little holes I got to do all together just to redo all these little rails. And that's drill and countersink those, and then drill and tap the ones into the tubing to remount them. So there's a lot to it. There's a lot of screws in this little puppy here. Let's go all the way up. You can't see some of them because of the angle, but some of the screws are just there to hold that steel plate, and some are there to hold the gusset, and some are there to do both. So we're pretty happy with how things have turned out so far. In case you're wondering what this is, It's just an idea. I was coming up with some way to re-support the cable chain for all the power cords. So that's something that I kind of started out with. I don't think I want that much of a low profile on it. I want to bring it, probably, cut it up. So maybe some kind of a double radius here, maybe cut about half of that out, and then add me a little block right there on the end that I can drill and tap a couple of holes into to hold the end of the cable chain. And that's another thing I'm gonna have to modify. All that has to come off of there, and we're looking to find some shielded AC cable. This wire, actually, I didn't have any noise problems or issues, and maybe it's because I'm not using the parallel port, and I don't really know what the noise issues are or what they cause. I hear people talking about it a lot. Most of my wires were shielded, but my power cable for the little spindle motor isn't. So I think when I'm in the process of doing everything and I'll have all this stuff laid out, it'll be easier to pull some new wires in there. We're going to move our lights too on the gantry. Right now I've got them mounted underneath the cable track on the y-axis. I want to move them over and put them on the bottom of the boom. Now that I'll be able to put something down there, no more hindrance from the carriages. You can see with these carriages, there's no way to put anything underneath this left or right, just because of it surrounds the bottom of it. So there was no way to put a center support underneath it. So it was just not good for what I need. And I got to make my wires grow a little bit, so I've got to reroute a lot of my wires. Once this all drops down, I'm going to have to gain a lot going back the other way, so this cable track will come loose from here, and it'll just be moved over a foot or so, whatever it ends up needing. And just pull all the wires through to accommodate it. So that's where we are, and if you guys are interested in CNC, like I said, don't be afraid. Once you start, you'll just figure it all out eventually. There's a lot of people out there to help you. A lot of videos out there to give you ideas. I wished I'd spent more time watching videos and learning from other people's mistakes than making all the ones that I made in the processes. But we're happy with what we got, and hopefully we'll be mighty tight when it gets all put back together, and I'll have the tolerances that I want to do whatever I want on the table. It'll be rigid enough to do metal, wood, whatnot, as far as milling, and of course quite adequate for plasma or laser, 3D printer, or whatever I could dream of putting on here in the future. I definitely want a 4th axis in the future to do some rotary stuff, so I've got a little controller board for that. I haven't even tinkered with the idea of how I want to do it, but it can be done. Alright, you guys, it's been good, it's been fun, it's been real. Y'all have a great weekend. Hope you enjoyed the video. Give me a thumbs up, like the videos. If you want updates to the next one before they come out, just subscribe to my channel. I'll subscribe to yours. Y'all have a great day.